Welcome to the Good Karma Sport Fishing Podcast. I'm your host, Captain Ryan Van Fleet. Okay, before I get started here this morning, a message about my charter fishing business to the clients that are on the books with me here in April and May. So it's day by day in the Keys. So if you have questions, just give me a call. I'm not going to use my podcast forum as a place to talk about this crazy virus that's going on right out there right now. It's just not the place. And if you want to know what's going on in the Keys, the best place for people to get information is to tune into the Monroe County Facebook page. And there's a lot of closures and things happening. So if you want to know what's happening with that, then that's the best place to get information. Sometimes news can get all messed up, and I don't want to have to contribute to that because there's just enough confusion out there right now and a lot of rumors. But again, if you're on the books with me for April, give me a call if you have questions. Also for May. But we're just taking it day by day, man. We're just taking it day by day. So that's what's happening. I'm staying busy. I got lots to do. So, and for me, I'm still practicing like daily meditation, and it really does help me. It keeps me focused, and it's something to do, something to break. I can walk away from and go do it, and it's like So, with that being said, Melinda, her podcast is excellent, and she does a lot more with how to keep people motivated, tips, talks about meditation. She shares a lot of stories about me. So if you want to hear some funny stuff, then you can listen to her podcast. You can learn a little bit more. You can learn a little bit more about me there as far as my personal things go and what I'm all about. So I highly suggest you guys tune in and give her podcast a listen. It's the Good Karma Success Coach with Melinda Van Fleet. Okay, so now let's get into the fishing. So I'm going to share a couple tips with you guys. Okay, first I want to talk about reels, and then I want to talk about bait. First, reels. Now more than ever, we need to take care of our equipment. Okay, that means taking care of your clickers. I got a call from a buddy. He says, well, I'm going to switch this brand to this brand because I'm tired of the clickers breaking. Now, I'm not going to I was thinking about sharing names of reels and stuff, but I'm not going to. So, because I don't feel it's fair. And I don't have any affiliation with any of these reel companies. So, I'm just going to give you guys this one tip, okay? So, what I've learned with high-speed reels with several brands, and you guys know I use Talicas, is that some brands more than others, their clickers fail. Now, you've heard that, right? Well, I've had issues with the Talicas too. So I've had Talica reels fail clicker-wise. The amount of money that I was spending on clickers was insane. And it was adding up. And then I sent it to a reel guy. I kept sending it to the same reel guy. And he just was like, he would fix them, send them back, and then I would find that he was using shoddy parts. And I was like, wow, what's going on here? And then the clickers were coming back to me I don't know what was going on. But anyways, I switched. And I made the switch to Lighthouse Point Tackle, Tom Green's old shop. Now, Tom Green since sold it. If you don't know who Tom Green is, you should probably Google him. Okay? He invented the reel cranky for swordfish and deep dropping. The guy, we've done business with him with Jimmy Jigs, and he couldn't have been more than, he was a class act guy. He was always nice to Melinda, and I always respected that. And Melinda would come back from Tom Green's shop saying, man, he really runs a tight ship. So I always kept that in mind. I always wanted to support Tom Green's shop because he did a lot when I was a distributor for Jimmy Jigs, and he believed in the product, and he was always nice to Melinda. So after Hurricane Irma, that was the final straw with the reel repair company that I was working with. And Melinda's like, why don't you send him to call Tom Green's shop and see if they'll fix them? And I was like, yeah, I bet you Tom Green's shop fixes reels because Tom Green runs a tight ship, and I know that his employees are going to be fall in line with Tom Green's standards and stuff, because the guy was just he just ran a great tackle shop, and so At least that was my experience as far as doing business with him. So I sent the reels. I was like blindly. I called Lighthouse Point Tackle and said, "Hey, I'm having a lot of problems with my talicas." And I sent them I sent them every talica because it was Hurricane Irma. I was basically not working for almost 4 months. So we had to evacuate. When we came back, there was no business in the Keys. So I took that time to send my reels out, all of them, and figure out what was going on, because what was happening, like I said, I kept getting the reels back from this company that said they were repairing them, but then they would break. Then I'd send them back, said we fixed it, and then they would break again. So I got a hold, like I said, I was like, so I called Lighthouse Point, and they were like, yeah, man, we fixed them, and they were very, very customer service oriented, and it's like, send them up. And within so I sent them like 6 reels, 6 talicas that, I mean, my whole set was basically shot. And I didn't know what was going on. And it was Hurricane Irma. I couldn't afford to buy all new reels. And I hadn't had them for very long. So I knew something was going on. And I just couldn't dissect the issue because of the way that the Metallica is machined. And it takes somebody that really, and I didn't want to tear them apart, because what happens when you start tearing high-speed reels apart, the springs get weird, and you better be really good and meticulous, because there's reasons why those reels need to be sent off to somebody and fixed, because there's a lot that goes into them as far as mechanical wise. But anyways, I'm sure you guys know that. So I sent him to Tom Green, and it took about, I would say, about 5 days, and Ben called me, and Ben's one of the guys that work at the shop, and he said, Ryan, every one of your reels has been damaged. I go, what do you mean damaged? He said they've used the wrong parts to fix stuff, and it caused pitting and of the shield around the outer casing around the clicker. So your clickers have been getting destroyed because they've been using the parts. The parts were wrong, and they weren't getting things seated back right, and basically destroyed my whole set. So it's Hurricane Irma. Literally, I have no income, okay, but I still need to fish, because guys are still like, I've got a good group of local clients that were coming out and supporting me, and that's the only way I survived Irma, was because people supported my business, because they wanted me there after it was all done. So, and I really respected that, and I wanted to be functional. I still wanted to give them a good charter with good bait and give them 1,000%, but I needed my reels working, because they weren't. So I go, Ben, what's my options, brother? I can't afford to fix all my talicas, man, or to have to buy all new reels. So what Ben did was he rebuilt every talica that I had, and he said, they're going to be good as new, trust me, and we'll take care of you. So I want to say within 2 weeks, in that time frame, Tom Green's shop, as 1 reel got done, they would overnight me a reel. As 2 got done, they would overnight me a reel. So every reel came back rebuilt and in mint condition. Mint! And they saved me. Like, you guys know how much a Talica costs. It takes me, for me to buy 1 Talica, it takes me a full year of charters to where I will feel comfortable with spending the money to buy a Talica. I save up how I save up for my Talicas is that I use gift cards for my birthday, and from gift cards from people over the course of the years for special occasions. And when I have enough gift cards saved up, then I go buy a Talica. It just doesn't, or I buy a new reel. I don't, a Talica or not. Everything just gets set aside, and I don't touch it. Heck, my wife and I bought a giant big screen TV and it took us how many years? Years. A couple years to save up gift cards. And then we walked in and we bought the big screen TV with nothing but gift cards. So, but we were that's how, we do things. So, but I was I still laugh about that. I still remember going into, I think it was Target or something, and we went in with a stack of gift cards, and the person looked at us like we were crazy, and we walked out of there with our first big screen TV as a couple. So, and we still have it. It's still kicking butt. So, and I don't have any plans on buying a new TV anytime soon. But I'm getting off track. So I was very impressed with Lighthouse. They were like amazing customer service. They told me exactly what I needed to do. They didn't try to sell me anything, which was like awesome because I hate that. Oh, you need to buy a new reel, da 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 da. This is what we can do. We'll give you 10% off. A lot of tackle shops are like that. So, so I get everything back, and it's back to business, and then I get a clicker failure. And I was like, what? Now the clicker failure came later, and like I said before, I was getting a lot of clicker failures with the Talicas. And the other brands are getting a lot of them too. And you guys know which brands they are. So, and some of them are worse than others. And then, so Ben says, okay, we're going to fix this right now. And here's what you need to do. And I go, what do you mean? You need to take some corrosion block and you need to spray it on the clicker and let it get into the mechanism. So there's, if you look at the Talica, you'll see that, or at any sort of like reel, high-speed reel, you can see where the clicker's at and where there's like a little, some O-ring in there. So what you do is he said spray the corrosion block in there, do it after you've washed your reels, okay? After you wash your reels, and do it after every time you fish, and then watch what happens. So, okay, flash forward today. I started doing this, like I said, 2 years ago. I've had one clicker failure in 2 years. One. And my reels get abused and the clickers stay on because that's how I can tell what a fish is doing. I actually get kind of upset when people turn the clickers off because I can't tell if the fish is taking drag or what's happening with the angler, because that's just how it goes. I need to know what the fish is doing. So the clickers stay on, and plus it helps the backlashing. So I know a lot of guys get annoyed with having the clickers on. It is what it is. Mine stay on. That's just how I run my business. So, guys, now more than ever, especially me, I need to like really watch what I'm spending and really take care of my current gear, because I don't want to have to send it off somewhere and then have it sit because it's shut down, or I'm like, so I highly suggest, especially if you guys are shipping your reels to California because your clickers are breaking, guys, send them to Tom Green's. Quit sending them to California. And you guys know what companies are in California where you guys are sending them. So Lighthouse Point Tackle, Tom Green's shop, call them and see if they do the maintenance on the reel first. It's super easy. Tell them what's wrong, put your business cards in there, and follow up with them. Okay, they're going to fix it. If they can't, they're going to tell you. So they were honest with me about a couple of my spinning reels. They said, hey, we can't service this type of reel because it's just too complicated. So, meaning that not complicated, but mean there's just too much to it. So it needs to go back to the manufacturer, which sucks, because they sit on them and then they charge you guys for the maintenance. It's like, to me, I'm like, there's something, if something keeps failing, why isn't somebody talking about how to fix it? And a lot of these companies say don't put any like corrosion block in your reel, or don't put any WD-40 in your reel. Well, avoid the WD-40 and go with the corrosion block. That's what I do. And I have to tell you, one clicker failure in 2 years, okay? And I take care of my equipment like it's insane. So when you're done with your charter or done with your trip, bring in your rods and reels, and now mostly everybody has some time, and I want you to spray some corrosion block on your clicker and let it like get into your reel. And then I want you to see if you get another clicker failure, especially on those reels that you're sending to California to the manufacturer. So guys, nothing's 100%, okay? Sometimes it requires some WD, some corrosion block, some duct tape, some, so I've worked for Fortune 500 companies, large pharmaceutical companies, and I have to tell you, the best fixes came from the individual themselves that own the piece of equipment or work with it daily. and those were the maintenance guys. Okay, so when I heard Ben tell me that, something clicked in my brain, and I started doing it, and that little cost went away. And I didn't have to worry about sending my reels off to fix stupid clickers, which is annoying, and those costs add up. So especially when you only own 2 reels and you lose your clicker, which is, so I'm just trying to help you guys out. Do it, try it. It's up to you guys. I don't take any sort of liability with it or anything like that. It works. It works for me, and my reels get put through some abuse. So and that's why I own Talicas, because they are bulletproof for me, and they don't spend any time in the shop. Rarely. I send them back I rotate them out every 6 months to a year, and I get all new bearings every year. And Tom Green's shop does that for me. And then if I need a new reel casing, they do that. So it's just those little things can it can extend the life of those super expensive reels. And actually, you just need to do it anyways. So send them back like a little at a time. So I challenge you guys, send your reels to Lighthouse Point Tackle in Florida. You can Google Lighthouse Point Tackle. You get the address there for Tom Green's shop. Now I think that Tom Green sold the shop, so there's a new owner, but the level of customer service hasn't changed, and so just FYI. Then I want you guys to, like I said, I'm using a corrosion block on the clickers, and put them on your troublesome reels that you're having problems with the clickers. And then I want you guys to let me know how things go. Okay? I would really appreciate some feedback on this, because I find it really hard to believe that the reel companies haven't talked about this yet. And the sales guys out there that are on the road selling these reels and haven't talked to you guys about this yet. So it works. Just give it a shot and let me know how things turn out. Okay, so that's it about the reels. I hope it helps. In fact, I know it will, because it's helped me. Otherwise, I would be talking about it. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about bait and catching bait. Now, there's a lot of gadgets out there on the market, and with gadgets, sometimes everybody thinks that that's going to be the end-all, be-all when it comes to catching bait. Products like the Ballyhoop, chum bags. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, cast nets with rings. I think what I'm trying to say is that sometimes the basics, you're still going to have to rely on the basics, okay? And the basics is manually catching your bait with rod and reel. Because what's happening, what I'm seeing is that now, unless ballyhoo are becoming conditioned on certain spots to hoop nets, meaning that they're staying just out of reach and on patch reefs now. So until we get a new flood of ballyhoo in, then certain fish become conditioned. And if you haven't seen it, you're not fishing enough. So the day is going to be like one day you can go out there and get the ballyhoo really easily, and the next day you can't get them into the slick because they're being spooky or they're staying just out of reach. And that happens, okay? And I don't know why guys don't talk about this, because it does, and there's lots of tricks, okay? So always come armed with when you need to catch bait, never ever rely on a gadget, okay? Never. You always got to have a rod and reel. Now, for me, I keep like a small ice fishing rod. I like smaller rods because they're easy to store, and I don't have a lot of places to store rods on the 23. So a couple things that I do for bait rods is that I have a small fishing rod. It's a really like not even 3 feet, and I keep that down in the cuddy, and I have it loaded with like really thin braid, like 10-pound braid, because I'm going to have to make a long cast with that rod. Or you can buy a 2-piece rod, and you can get those at Walmart. You don't need anything fancy when it comes to catching ballyhoo, guys. So you can buy a 6-foot 2-piece and then just take it apart, put it back together, and keep it stored in your cuddy cabin or somewhere out, where it's not going to get broken. So be careful of putting bait rods in the gunnels, because what happens is when you got those hooks exposed, somebody's going to bump into that hook and get it caught in their pants leg. I don't use my under gunnel, my side gunnel bait rod holders, because I've seen rods get busted, and it's just not a good place to put rods. And I'm actually getting ready to seal off those holes, side gunnel holes here, probably this fall, and just get rid of them completely, because I hate when the rubber on those things get wore out and just annoys me. So I'm just going to seal them up this fall. That's on my 1,000 to-do list when it comes to my boat. But anyway, so those are two key ways that you can get a small bait rod. Now you can buy small bait rods at tackle shops, and they're relatively inexpensive. You don't need a fancy reel, guys, for bait. You just have to make sure you take care of it and keep it oiled and greased. And now, here's what it comes to. And as far as what you need, as far as getting to the ballyhoo, you need really small gold hooks, and you just got to experiment with whatever hook works the best for you. And then some bait, they're really sensitive to line. So what I use when I'm going out on my bait rods, I have 12-pound to 10-pound, like 12-pound fluorocarbon is what I use as far as the bait rod setup for catching ballyhoo. Now a bobber, you need a weighted bobber. Okay, so you can buy those at Walmart. And the reason why you need a weighted bobber is that you need to be able to make those long casts back to the ballyhoo way back there. And another thing I do, if I don't have if my weighted bobbers, or if I can't find one, then I keep a bullet, like a trout fishing bobber, a couple of those, and then I use then I just use a number 64 rubber band, and then that way I adjust the bobber length as far as the leader go, and I tie it on the hook. So I basically use a number 64 rubber band as a bobber stopper. It works really well. And then if I need to add a little weight above that to get it out there, I'll do that. And then you've got the sabikis. I don't like sabikis. It doesn't work on my boat, and things get broke, and they just don't work very well for me. So I've never used them, nor do I plan on using them when it comes to catching certain types of bait. And when you're catching ballyhoo, it's best to do it one at a time. Otherwise, you're asking for trouble when you sabiki up those types of baits. And then when it comes to catching speedos, the hoop net's really tricky. Guys make it look really easy on there. Don't get fooled by that. It's the easiest way to catch speedos is one at a time. You can catch twice as many. Use a small rod, and that really helps me. And the bait for the speedo, the best bait is the bloodline of a bonito, or a bloodline of any type of fish, but the bloodline of the bonito works the best for speedos. And when they're really eating really heavy, then you can get them on shrimp and stuff. But here's the trick with ballyhoo. Now, I'm going to share this one bait with you guys, and it works extremely well because it's durable, and you can catch numerous ballyhoo on it, and it has some tail action. And ballyhoo like a bait that's moving with action. They're a fish, man. It's like using a little jig for crappies and panfish. And that's the way I look at ballyhoo, as a panfish. So I grew up fishing bluegills and crappies, and I look at everybody treats these ballyhoo like they're something special sometimes, and they can only eat certain things. But what it comes down to is that sometimes it's like the little bit of wiggle on your worm, man. So I've seen a lot of guys catch more crappies on just the action of a small artificial than anything else. Than like when I was ice fishing. So it was like over live bait and all this other crap that we used to use for them. But anyways, the absolute best bait that I use when I need to catch ballyhoo one at a time is squid tentacles. Okay, I buy the squid, and I buy the white California squid. Okay, the white California squid works the best. Now, and it comes in the blue container. So white California squid, the blue container. I think it's by Lund's. I think that's who makes it. But I don't like the squid that comes out of the yellow box. That squid's off color, The tentacles don't seem to hold together right. It's more of a lower grade, larger squid. I don't know what's up with that, but who knows? So I just buy that white. If you find and it's hard to find nowadays because I think California is having some problems with squid. So the best thing to do is open the box of squid before you buy it and look at the tentacles, and that's what you're going to use. So what you do is that when you're chumming, you put the squid on your cutting board and you cut off the tentacles, okay? And you get them prepped. And then you just hook that, you just slide that tentacle onto your small gold hook, and then just let that tail, that tentacle, move and then watch the action on that. Now, I use those tentacles for yellowtail bait, and they love it. They love it, love it, love it. And plus, it's hard for them to get that tentacle off the hook. So it's just another little bait that you can use out there. And a lot of guys don't use it, and I was like, why don't you? It's like, oh my gosh. But I don't like to use squid strips because it gets ripped off the hook too easy. But if you just take the tentacles off, cut them down the size. Now you need a small tentacle, and you guys can just use scissors. Buy some bait scissors. Quit using knives, and buy some good bait scissors. And then just take off all the tentacles. Get the chum going, and then by the time you get all the tentacles off, you're going to have enough tentacles to where you can catch numerous ballyhoo and you're ready to go. And not to mention is that you don't have to worry about the tentacle falling off the hook as much and getting ripped off by the ballyhoo. So there's times when I can catch 5 to 6 ballyhoo on one squid tentacle. Okay, and they love them. They love them. They love them. So because of that action on that squid tentacle, it drives them crazy. So when you throw your bobber out there, and then you'll see the ballyhoo come up to it. You're like, oh, he's not biting. Well, you just fish it like you fish a bass, man. Like you're fishing, like you got to have some action. Fish don't like suicidal baits, guys. They don't. And you're going to hear that. Fish don't like it when you throw it in their face and it just sits there. And then you're like, oh, he's not biting. Well, you got to actually work for the fish, man. You got to get some movement. You got to get some tail shake on that squid tentacle, and then watch what happens. So don't believe me? You need to try it. I wouldn't be steering you wrong because that's what I use. Now, sometimes when I forget the squid, I got to use shrimp. And I kick myself in the butt every time I forget to bring squid. And that's just how it rolls. So, and then when I'm out there yellowtail fishing, I'm like, and then you get a lot of yellowtail going, and I'm like, I'll put on a whole squid, man. I'll put on a whole squid and I'll catch a flag. And you won't catch many of them, but it usually does produce a large fish. So that's something that you guys can do. Have some fun when you're out there and try some new stuff. And I think a lot of guys are like, what do you do? How do you do it? They try to mimic too many guys, and there's a lot of crap on TV out there right now that I'm like, oh gosh, man, I just had to turn it off. So I'm going to summarize the bait thing. Key points. Don't rely on a ballyhoo. There's a lot of advertising for it. Yes, it does work, but the basics work. Okay? If you don't come prepared, you could be screwed. Okay? There's a lot of situations where hoop nets don't work. So I want you to be prepared. Okay? So I'm prepared. I just don't use a ballyhoo. So I've got my spinning rods ready, especially when I'm going out to fish the patch reefs and I absolutely need ballyhoo for muttons. Or when I'm out on the reef chumming for yellowtails and the speedos come up, and what happens is, I'm going to get the ballyhoop out. Well, what happens is, man, those fish are becoming conditioned to nets. If they're on certain spots, they see that net and they're gone. So you need to have your little rod ready, get your bait ready while you're waiting and chumming, and just be prepared. Okay, just be prepared. If you really need the bait, you're going to be prepared. Now, also, too, remember, the bait's not on your schedule, guys. So, that may show up right away. It may not. I would make sure you're leveled up with chum, that you've gone with adequate amounts of chum if you need to catch bait, and have your small bait rods ready, have a ballyhoop ready, so when they get close and you can take a big scoop of them, and your cast net. I don't like a cast net because I don't like a cast net. So I've seen a guy get ripped overboard once and I had to save him, and I don't want to have to do that again, nor do I want my clients to have to worry about me going overboard because I got caught in the net or I slipped while I was throwing one. But with that being said, there's no law to how you guys catch bait, okay? So it's really up to you. I really encourage you guys to think for yourselves when it comes to that stuff. So there's several different options to catch bait, and just because one guy's doing it this way doesn't mean you have to do it like him. So, and I think there's a lot of that stuff going on out there right now is because this guy does it this way, then I need to do it that way. So I always tell people, hey man, you're your own person, be yourself, and do what you feel comfortable with, and that includes catching bait. However you catch bait, there's no law out there about it, and there's no law that you need to go catch it either. Okay, so there's no law that you need to have bait in your well. I see a lot of TV shows like you need to stop and get the ballyhoo and da 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 da. I want to tell you guys something. I started my charter boat business and I didn't use any live bait. Okay, nothing. And I didn't use any weights because I couldn't afford them. So I'll talk about that in another podcast. So, and I think I'm just going to get ready to wrap this up today because I have to go check on the boats and all that good stuff. And I'm in my morning routine here. A couple things. I have created a private Facebook page for you guys. Okay. And it's called the Good Karma Sport Fishing Podcast, and you can just search for it on Facebook, and then you'll have to answer the questions to be allowed in the group. And I am screening who goes into the group. I'm going to be moderating it, and it's going to be a place where you guys can communicate amongst yourselves. Also, you can communicate with me because I feel that I need a private group for that. I don't like to do a lot of stuff on Instagram because a lot of the fishing reports are like going really quick, and what I'm finding is that I feel that it's a good place for my listeners to get some good information through my private Facebook group. So I encourage you guys to search for that on, like I said, it's the Good Karma Sport Fishing Podcast group, and get signed up for it, and then we can get to communicate. Make sure you introduce yourself so I know who you are. And fill out the questions. I do ask for your email because the people that agree to go into the group, you're going to be put onto my email list so I can give you guys some updates of what's happening. It will be a place that I will share information as far as locations of fish, especially during dolphin season. So I found that Instagram isn't the best place to share that type of information. So because I want to share it with the people that are following and supporting my podcast, and that's a good place for you guys to get information as far as, depths of dolphin, where the dolphin at, and some other things and I'm going to be sharing some other stuff through there that I'm not going to share through Instagram. Only what I'm saying is that get signed up for the group, and it'll be a good way for you guys to communicate. And I'll talk more about my Facebook group here in the future. Like I said, there's no fees or anything like that, so it's free, as well as my podcast. So the quality of stuff that I put out here for people is like, it's just, I hope you guys are helping spread the word. Especially now, because people need a good outlet, man. They need a good outlet. And educational stuff is a good thing. Now's the time to brush up on your fishing knots, learn new things, learn how to tie a bristle knot, learn how to tie a spider hitch. So those are those knots are those are the only knots that I use. I use a improved clinch knot, I use a bristle knot, and I use a spider hitch. I don't do anything else. Nor do I tell you, the Bimini twist is overrated. Great for going out and targeting giant big game, but learn how to tie a spider hitch and you're set. Learn how to tie a bristle knot. So that's all I got today, guys. Make sure you follow my Instagram page because I am going to be, when I am fishing, I'll let you guys know what I'm catching. And it's just kind of up in the air right now as far as my fishing schedule goes. So I'll let you guys know what's going on through the Instagram page, and that's Good Karma Sport Fishing _FL_Keys. Make sure you check out my website, goodkarmasportfishing.com. And like I said, get signed up on Facebook for my private group for the podcast. Good way for you guys to get to know each other. Throw out some questions. One guy doesn't know it, the next guy will, and we're all here to help us out. Wild Willie's on there as well, and I'm going to be bringing in some other guys that you'll be able to communicate with that most of you guys, I'm not going to tell you who they are, but you're going to want to be able to communicate with them that's in my network. So, which will be really good for you guys because I've got some really good support teams, and I'm going to ask them to be they're going to be in the group. So, just an FYI. I'm trying to think. That's it. I got to go. You guys have a good one. Stay busy. Keep your mind busy. And if you can go fishing, go fishing. If not, pretend like you're fishing. So, at least that's what I do when I can't fish when it's windy. That's all I got. And remember, anytime you're fishing, it's all good.